If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Unspoken Issues.
Okay. Chris Armstrong. I love being a turtle. Oh, my goodness. We're going back to 1990. So, all right. I'll go ahead and start this out as to kind of explain why I decided to do this. I don't know if I told you, but I kind of started to have an appreciation or at least an interest in comic book movie adaptations.
Yeah.
Because sometimes what you get is a little bit further than what the movie shows you.
You've done Darkman a while
Yeah,
back.
yeah. The first one that ever got me going like, oh, wow. I wonder what other adaptations are like this is the Superman 4 Quest for Peace adaptation, which was, I don't know if I recorded anything on it, but I did. But it was back in the days of Twitter and Periscope.
Yeah.
So I showed some of the crazy stuff that happened in the adaptation that did not even make it or was even thought of in the movie. And it was just insane. This year, 2025, we are celebrating the 35th anniversary. It just passed, too. I think the
a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, release date of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie, was March 31st of 1990, if I remember correctly.
Seminal moment in the life of Chris Armstrong.
Oh, yes. Oh, my goodness. So I know we've talked Turtles before, but I think that you owe it to the audience that has never heard any discussion about the movie on your end before. 1990 hits. I am about to be 12 years old, so I must be 11 when the movie hits theaters. In May, I turned 12. I'm excited. I'm a big Turtles fan. I'm watching the cartoon, had no idea about the comics. I know this is all stuff you already know about me because we've talked about it. But I had no idea it was based off of these gritty black and white comics from the mid 80s. Mm-hmm. So I was brought up on the cartoon, and then we hear that there's going to be a live action movie. And I was like, oh, okay, well, this is going to be interesting. I can't wait to see it. So on your side of things, what was going on with you in 1990? And tell me all about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie for Chris Armstrong.
I was 9, I guess, when it came out. I turned 10 in May of that year. Mm-hmm. I was reading the Archie comics. I wasn't really fully into comics in general. Like I would read some sometimes, but the Turtles is probably really the main thing that got me into reading comics regularly, because the Archie comics were doing those, which started out as adaptations of the cartoon. I saw an ad for the movie in one of those comics. I freaked out. Before you know it, it's in theaters. It was a movie that I remember several friends and my cousin's husband took us to watch it. The closest, we had a drive-in close to where I lived at the time, but it wasn't playing it. So we went to the big theater that was maybe half an hour from my house. It was probably the first time I'd ever gone to a movie with a bunch of friends and made a big event out of it. It was pretty awesome. I loved it. Got the VHS when it was available and wore it out pretty quickly.
I don't know if I went to the theaters and watched this thing. I know I did for part 2, and I'll tell that story when we actually do the sequel to this. That's the plan anyway. We're going to be discussing the trilogy and its adaptations as we go through these episodes. But yeah, I don't recall. I feel like I would have wanted to see this in theaters, but I, for some reason, don't know if I did. I guarantee you, just like you said, the VHS shows up and I am like, I've got to rent this. I've got to watch this. And I watched it plenty of times since then.
One of the cool things about the movie is you find out later that it's sort of an amalgam of Mirage comics from the 80s with elements from the cartoon. So the kids would be familiar with that stuff. It's a little bit of both, but it's set in 80s gritty New York. It is really dark as far as the atmosphere. We could talk about how some of the content changed from the script, which the comic is based on, and what the movie ended up doing. It's an independent movie. They got the Jim Henson puppet people to do this and everything. It was an independent movie that really exceeded expectations when it came out. I'll throw a recommendation out for the What a Cartoon podcast covered the movie last year. It was on their Patreon, but I think they put it out recently on the free feed as well. It's like a 6-hour deep dive on everything about the movie. Pretty interesting. A lot of interesting stuff in there.
Yeah, there's a great documentary, which I think we've talked about in the past, called Turtle Power. You know, it's over 2 hours. There's a lot of great stuff in there. You talk about the cartoon, the movies.
Yeah, it covers like everything up to, I think it coincided with the Michael Bay produced movie, and it kind of covers everything up to that point.
Before we go any further, were you getting the action figures?
Oh, yeah, I was all over those. I probably had more than my fair share. I didn't have the complete collection, almost impossible for a kid. But yeah, I had probably upwards of 30 plus figures.
Man.
Mandacon and Mutagen Man, all the extra stuff.
Wow. I think that I ended up with a total of like 6 or 7 figures. I mean, I got most of the core turtles except for Michelangelo, and I got Shredder. I feel like that might have been it for when I was a kid. After I'd gotten those figures, Christmas rolls around and we had already hit Generation 2, Generation 3. I got a Michelangelo figure where his arm stuck out and twirled with the nunchucks in its hand. So you wind it up or something. I can't remember exactly how that worked.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like the core or the original, the first generation of figures. It was definitely something that was added on. I had some severe nostalgia for those figures. About 8 or 9, maybe a little bit more, 10 years ago, I ran into an auction that had a ton of those figures. Leatherhead was in that. It's Leatherhead, right?
Yeah.
For some reason, I'm thinking Leatherneck, but no, it's Leatherhead. Leatherhead. I got Bebop, Rocksteady. I got a Usagi Yojimbo in there. I mean, these were all, had such an appreciation for the figures, especially after watching the documentary. You learn so much about some of the crazy figures that they were coming up with and how Playmates I think it was Playmates that got the license for it. So yeah, I just wanted to see where you were at as a kid with the figures. I was really more focused on G.I. Joe at the time. I loved the Turtles. I loved watching the cartoon and playing with the figures, but I had to split. I want to get a G.I. Joe now. And I could never mix those two properties because of the size difference. I've had a conversation a long time ago about how people would say, I had no problem. Like all my toys would fight each other. And I couldn't do that. I don't know why, but unless they were on the same scale, like some giant turtle coming in there punching Duke in the face, couldn't do it. Recently, did you see the Turtles mask that was up for auction? Like the original Turtles mask? Yes.
I think it's a Donatello.
Yep. Yeah, it did not look good. It looked pretty scary. Age has taken its toll on it. And I do want to mention Partners in Crime because I'll forget about it at the end. Partners in Crime, Turtle Power. I have a very distinct memory of, I remember being cold outside when I was 11 years old when my alarm would go off and play the radio. Mm-hmm. The reason why I remember being cold outside is because we would listen to the radio in the morning for school to be canceled. If it snowed pretty good the night before, you were sitting there listening and waiting for the radio station. You know, this is how it was done back in the day, kids. You couldn't check the internet. You had to listen to them play songs and finally get to the break and be like, all right, we got school cancellations. And then they'd run them down. I can remember sitting there one morning listening to Partners in Crime, Turtle Power, laying in my bed, hoping for school to be canceled. And then, of course, in 1990, something else happened. I want to mention it before we get into talking about this adaptation. It's something that I really did not get a chance to fully appreciate until about 2020, 2021, and that is the Coming Out of Our Shells tour.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I listened to that album over and over. So that would have been 30 years old at the time that I was listening to it. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so indicative of the 90s. It just drips 90s. But there's a Shredder song, I swear, is still not on that Spotify part of the album. You guys
hate music.
Yeah, you have to go to YouTube to listen to it.
Live exclusive. You had to go to the show to hear that one.
Oh my goodness. I hate music. Well, all right, let's get into this. I want to kind of run down loosely what we're getting in the comic versus the movie. And I'll throw some stuff out there. This is an adaptation of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie. People were probably wondering, like, okay, who published it? And sure enough, it was Mirage Studios.
That was something I wanted to bring up. Did you read the Mirage version? Because I found out there were several different versions.
I didn't know. I read the Mirage one.
Maybe not several, but 2 at least. Let me see if I can pull it up here.
I've got to see what this other one is. Because
it's an Archie version, but it's the same content colorized, and there's maybe a couple of pages missing. I'm curious if the Mirage adaptation has Damn a few times. I wonder if they took that out for the Archie version. But I was looking through this. I don't think I ever had it. I did have the Part 2 Secret of the Ooze comic adaptation when I was a kid, and but I didn't remember ever seeing this one. But yeah, apparently it was black and white, 62 pages. The newsstand edition is colored by Barry Grossman with no bonus pages, published by Archie Comics. Then it was republished by IDW in the 2010s.
Okay.
So apparently Mirage put one out, and then Archie put a color version out, probably for newsstands. I'm assuming the Mirage version was probably only available in comic shops. Anybody listening, for a more expansive look at what me, Jesse, and our buddy Evan experienced with the Ninja Turtles, we did an episode last year on the Image Comics Ninja Turtles issue 4. About half of that episode is us just reminiscing about the Ninja Turtles and our history with that stuff. So
yes, it is. All right. Definitely go back into the archives. Either way,
what I read was the Mirage version, black and white.
So when we're talking Mirage here, Peter Laird, Kevin Eastman, black and white. That was the first thing that hit me. This is going to be, aside from the cover, which is in color, and we definitely have the colored bandanas. The original comics were just straight red bandanas. You couldn't tell who they were unless you looked at their weapons. When we first opened this thing up, I was like, oh, okay. And then when you look at the cover as well, and finally, I'm going to share my screen. All right. So that is some classic Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles like art right there. Let me get the rest of the creative team before I forget. I was down here at the back. Layouts, Kevin Eastman. Script, Peter Laird. Pencils by Jim Lawson. Inks by Eric Talbot, Kevin Eastman, and Peter Laird. Lettering by Gary Fields. And again, this got released in 1990. Our cover has an April O'Neil that we are sort of not going to be seeing in the movie. This is indicative of the April O'Neil that we have in the original comics.
More similar to that than what the movie has. Jim Lawson did a bunch of the Mirage era Turtles comics. I guess that's why he's doing the adaptation along with Eastman and Laird and another guy. Was it Lawson? Or no,
hold on.
The other inker there was a third inker.
Eric Talbot.
Yeah. So it looks very much like those old Mirage comics. So it doesn't really surprise me that they have an April that looks a little bit more like that. I
kind of wonder sometimes, the first thing that goes through my mind when it comes to an adaptation, like, okay, what are they basing it off of? Because you and I have looked at some comics where they're taking the original script and it's not what you see in the movie. So I was wondering if that was what we were going to get here. And when you look at the appearance at first, you're like, oh, well, things may actually be a little bit different. Yeah. But you're going to be surprised because this thing actually holds pretty true.
It's pretty, the dialogue is almost exactly the same.
Right.
A lot of, there are some differences, but it's pretty straightforward adaptation of the movie.
Yeah. So we open the book and these beats are, before I do that, I do want to say that this was dedicated to Steve Barron, who is our director, right, of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie, which is great.
And the picture that accompanies that dedication is the same as the Archie cover.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so Peter and Kevin, they're already saying thanks to the director of the movie. The way this book opens is very faithful to the movie. If you remember how things go, we have the news report about how crime is on the rise in the city. April O'Neil is delivering the report. Then April's van ends up getting robbed. She happens upon the robbery, and the Turtles make the save. They show up. Raphael loses his sai, and it looks like April picks that up, just like the movie. They go back to the sewer lair and tell Splinter, again, just like the movie. It is funny because I'm nitpicking some of the things that were really different in the movie. It's hard to find some things. Really chose this right here where they were dancing to the song in the movie. I think they're dancing to Tequila. And you don't have that here at all. You have no idea what they're dancing to. I just see them. But they do yell ninjutsu. And it's so...
The things about I don't remember having this when I was a kid. I know I had the sequel comic, but I think for a lot of kids, the movie's in the theater for a month or so, if you're lucky, you get to see it once for most kids. And then if you have seen it, you're not going to see it again. The video probably didn't come out until Christmas.
Right, dude. It was a lot longer in between movies and VHS tapes, that's for sure.
So if you want to relive that movie, this comic is your only shot. There was probably a novelization as well, but
yeah, that's a great point. We do get treated to a little extra scene where Casey is in his apartment watching the news, and then he's flipping through the channels. He ends up seeing Dirty Harry, and he just turns the TV off. Yeah, he's got the mask sitting there. So I assume he's already in his crime fighter, vigilante persona. This isn't like the first time. He's like, okay, time to go out. Just like you said, he's getting inspired to go out and fight some crime. That doesn't show up in the movie. No Domino's ad in the comic. Domino's shows up and gives a pizza. That is not the case here. I don't even think we get to see the pizza dude.
No, they just said he's late.
He's got 30 seconds, though. They know the lines that need to make it into this comic. Pizza dude's got 30 seconds in this. There's so many classics. Then we have the classic pizza slice in the air by Leo. Pizza slice lands on Splinter. That's in the book. Raph comes out of Bat Dude instead of Critters, like in the film.
That change.
Yeah, I will definitely not complain. One of the things I love from the movie didn't make it into the book is no Jose Canseco reference when he's fighting Casey. That whole fight scene, I mean, it's still good in the book, I think. But
yeah, it's extended in the comic as well. It takes place over 2 locations rather than just the part segment.
Right. We do finally get to see the comic book that Danny's reading. The comic has him reading a Cerebus comic. All right. Nice little nod
the
there.
movie, is it Cerebus?
You can't tell.
Okay.
You can just see he's got the comic book open. He's actually reading a comic. You just don't know what it is, I don't think. So I couldn't see it anyway. And, oh, man, our comic book delivers when the origin is retold, showing you what happened. It's told in the movie, but we get a visual representation of the Matt Murdock.
Yeah.
It's tied to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where Matt saved a blind guy from getting hit by a truck. I love the fact that we get the Matt Murdock origin, and if anybody is an astute comic book reader, they might be able to put 2 and 2 together. I love it. After they make friends with April, they go over to her house. This is after Splinter gets abducted. The comic book is real faithful. You know, the movie and the comic are almost one and the same. Splinter gets abducted. They go to April's apartment above the antique store, and Raph gets mad because they should be going out looking for Splinter. He goes out onto the roof, and that's where he ends up meeting with the Foot Clan, who proceed to kick his butt pretty handily. What was interesting is you don't get any of the inner monologue in the movie.
Yeah, that's one of those things that comics can kind of do better than film.
I didn't expect, so it's not something that I expected from Raph, but then again, I wasn't used to him. I didn't read the original black and white comics, but it's not like he's just mad.
He recognizes his mistakes.
Yeah.
A little more than in the movie, you would think.
So I thought, okay, that's pretty interesting. After they hand Raphael's butt to him and throw him down through the skylight, Casey busts in, and the movie does it so well. I'm a big fan of Casey Jones because I'm a big fan of the Punisher. When Casey busts in, everything stops. The fight stops, and then everything just stops. One of the turtles is like, who is that guy? And Casey gets to do his whole intro. Comic book is like boom, pow, action pack. Hey, I'm Casey Jones, and right into the fight. So you don't get that real gravitas, I guess, or that aura that Casey has.
Camera panning over,
man, and you just see his hands with the hockey stick in his hand, you know. So anyway, it clicks here after the Foot and the Turtles scrap here. The antique shop goes up in flames. They hop into a van, and it just hit me looking at the comic. It didn't even occur to me in the movie. I'm pretty sure it's a van in the movie, too. Very reminiscent of the Turtle van. When I saw this panel right here, I was like, oh, that's the Turtle van. It's going to be the Turtle van at some point. Didn't even pick that up in the movie. Just something that stuck out. I want to ask a question. During the whole fight at the antique store, when it catches fire, Casey hears April's boss call and says, you're fired. Towards the beginning, her boss's son, Danny, is in trouble.
He's being recruited to the Foot, basically.
Right. He gets arrested. The cop calls the boss and essentially says, look, I've got your son here. This isn't shown in the movie, and maybe partially shown a little bit in the book, but essentially he's like, I've got your son here. Listen, I'll go easy on him if you get April to back off.
Yeah.
And She doesn't listen. We both know how the movie ends because the police chief is there at the end. But do you think that the police chief was like in league with the Shredder in any way? Did that ever cross your mind?
No, I thought it was more he was getting hassled and saw that as a way to get April off his back, because she wasn't just questioning him, she was kind of embarrassing him.
That's more the way it's portrayed. He's saying, you're busting my chops, and how about you lay off? But I was sitting there thinking, I wonder if he is... At one point, I was like, maybe she's questioning him about this stuff that's going on in Little Tokyo. He doesn't want to be bothered by that at all. Like, he wants to avoid it in some way, but they clearly do not lean into that, because at the end of this, he's going to show up and arrest whoever is causing the commotion with the foot and all that. Okay, this was a big thing. Shredder is pissed at Tatsu for not killing the turtles. They still have Splinter, but Shredder looks at Tatsu and says, even you fail me. And he gets mad. Now, I don't know if you see the page that I'm on right now. He like punches a wall. Danny is talking to Splinter, and he gets distracted because he hears a big commotion, and he goes and he looks down through a vent, and he watches Tatsu like start beating guys up. Mm-hmm. And just like the film, like, okay, here's where he kind of goes off. But I did not expect that. That didn't happen in the movie, right? Where he grabbed a guy and broke his neck. Yeah.
So I think what happened is when they had done the movie initially, he had killed that kid. He does in the comic, but maybe that was seen as going too far or whatever. So they had to go back and added some moaning to make it look like that kid was. They didn't break his neck.
Right,
but, in the movie, he beats the crap out of one of those kids.
Yeah.
He pulls his mask off, and he looks dead. I think initially in the script, he was dead. And when they were editing the movie, they made it look like he was just hurt really bad.
Well,
Which I think this was probably based off the original script, maybe before they had even finished the filming. Because there's another early, when the Turtles first show up and save April, there's a couple of panels of their shells popping out of the water.
Yes.
And that is in the trailer for the movie, but it's not in the movie.
I remember that, yeah.
It was not in the finished movie, but I watched the trailer today. And I saw that was in the trailer before they got X at some point.
Tatsu goes off the deep end, starts hurting a bunch of the foot soldiers, and then ends up killing one in this comic. They kind of have to retreat. They find a farmhouse. April's writing in a diary. I found this old diary today, only half filled. I guess the journalism bug hadn't taken complete hold of me yet. This is obviously her childhood house. We get an explanation as to why she's writing in a diary, because she just found it and she's decided to write in it, which explains a little bit. They do not try for the claustrophobic homosexual joke in this book.
Yeah, I noticed
that. Now I don't know if that was like an addition, obviously an addition later, or if it was Elias Kotai. How do you say his name?
Kotais, I think.
That is a great moment where they're teasing Casey about being claustrophobic. He's like, I don't even look at a man or something like that. It's like, that's pretty funny. Okay. Anyway, so
sometimes I wonder, like, there's some differences with the dialogue between April and Casey too, and I wonder if some of that was just maybe ad lib. The actors on set kind of reworking it to make it seem more natural or something.
Yeah. At this time, they stay faithful, sort of. There's a bit more action in the farm scene. They finally decide, after determining that Splinter's still alive, they're going to head back to the city. They get back to the city. That's where they head down into the turtle lair. They find Danny. Everything is pretty much the same as we go forward, except in the book, Danny makes the decision to steal one of April's drawings of the turtles. It's not actually given to him. In the book, it kind of makes you wonder, like, is Danny going to go back to Shredder? Is he going to say, hey, I know where they're at, just like he did before? Hey, they've returned. But of course, he gets there and ends up running into Splinter, and Shredder finds him and finds the picture. We go from there, just like the movie. But yeah, in this case, in the book, Danny steals the turtle drawing and heads back to the evil headquarters. Now, as Danny is talking to Splinter, we get Splinter's origin, and this, I almost feel like this may be faithful to the original black and white comic, or I'm the brother thing. Yeah,
I think so.
Okay, so we learned that it was Oroku Nagi that Master Yoshi had a problem with. Oroku Nagi beat Tang Shen, I believe is her name. She was laying unconscious on the floor. He thought Nagi was going to kill her, so he steps in and kills Nagi, and both of them leave Japan and head to New York. Oroku Nagi had a younger brother named Osaki. Osaki came looking for revenge. He ends up finding the two, killing Shen. I assume killed Master Yoshi. Splinter jumps out, claws his face. So we got this brother angle that's in the books that it really isn't. I can see why they did that. Cut that, or at least trim that down for the movie.
It a little.
Yeah. And so we continue on. Everything is matching up with the movie pretty well. We have Casey fighting Tatsu, which is great. He finds the golf club, hits him. He has the big line to all the Foot Clan. The Foot Clan raid the turtle lair. They get into a big fight with the turtles. Turtles, take care of business. The Foot Clan come running out of the sewers. They've had enough. They have been beaten. And so we get to the final scene, the rooftop fight, which is fairly faithful to the movie. Both are pretty faithful to each other here, except for when it's Shredder versus Splinter. He charges Splinter just like he did in the movies. He gets launched off the roof just like he did in the movies.
Yeah, he's kind of holding him over the edge like in the movie. In the movie, something that I've always been confused by, at least as a kid, was where Shredder pulls out that knife. Splinter's hanging on by the nunchuck and with the spear, has the nunchuck right under the spear and was holding Shredder over the ledge. Shredder pulls out the knife and throws it at him. In my head, I've always thought Splinter dodges that, and because of that, he loses his grip on the spear, and that's why Shredder falls. But in the comic, it shows him grabbing the dagger, so he has to let go of the spear to do that.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
In the movie, that's what happened. I was like, that's not how I remembered it. So I went back and went frame by frame on my DVD to see, and he does catch the dagger. It happened so fast that I never caught that.
Oh, yeah?
And I had to slow it down even now to catch him actually catching the dagger like that. And that's why Shredder falls or whatever. But in my head, it was always just that he lost the grip because he had to move out of the way of the knife.
Oh, to dodge it. I got you. He grabs the knife so he doesn't get hit with it. Now, what I'm talking about is this. He falls.
Oh, you mean there's no follow-up after he falls?
There is no garbage truck scene.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, we don't even get the KC garbage truck scene. It's interesting that if this was based off the script, they decided to leave it out of the comic. I really do. I think that's an interesting choice because that is such a punctuation in the movie. Like when Casey puts down the lever and the garbage truck comes down and you see Shredder's helmet just get crushed, you're like, oh, damn. The police chief has showed up there. The end of this movie and the end of the comic are very much the same as we approach the credits here. The chief shows up, the Foot Clan or the head, Sam Rockwell says, yeah, go check out the warehouse.
Like the Lairdman Island or something.
Oh, yeah. Check out the warehouse at East and Lairdman.
Yeah.
I didn't even catch that. That's funny. I gotta ask you about Danny's shirt. So in the movie, I was taking notes today as I was watching it, and one of the notes I put down is like, Danny has not changed his shirt. He's been wearing the Sid shirt for at least 4 days, and his dad's not that big of a jerk. Don't run away from home without a change of clothes. Anyway, in the book, I could not figure out what the top letters were, but you could see Rex. In the movie, it said it's Sid, which I'm sure is a Sid Vicious thing. This says Rex on his shirt, but it has some letters at the top. I kept looking and trying to figure out what are these. I know it starts with an R. What is it? And then finally I was like, is that Raw? I actually went to Google and I typed in Rawhide Rex, Rawhide Rex, because I was like, maybe that's what it is. The first thing that popped up was a movie called Rawhead Rex, which is a Clive Barker film, apparently. Mm-hmm. I never even knew it existed. And then when I sent it to you, you were like, not a good movie. I'm like, I don't even know what it is. So I have to ask you, what is Rawhead Rex?
It's a Clive Barker movie. I think he might have even directed it, but I don't think he likes it, or I think he's kind of disowned it. I'm not 100% sure on that. I kind of blind bought the Blu-ray maybe 5 or 6 years ago because I'd never seen it. And it's like a monster movie. It's basically like this little village in Ireland or Scotland being terrorized by this monster. The monster design is kind of cool, but like the mask doesn't really move much. Like it's real cheap. It's just not a very good movie. I'm glad I watched it once. I doubt I'll probably end up getting rid of that Blu-ray. But yeah, it's not great. It's got some good gore stuff in it, but
I was trying to link it to, oh my goodness, is it Steve Barron? Is that his name? What is his name?
Steve Barron.
I was trying to link it to that. I was like, well,
he's British. Maybe he knows Clive Barker or something.
Well, His name does not show up on the wiki. I looked to see if Steve Barron's name was popping up in the wiki for the movie, Rawhead Rex. It is not there, but he is a film director. Somebody we know appreciates that movie or felt like, damn, we got to get this reference in. That movie came out in 86, I think. So it's a mid-80s movie.
Barker didn't direct it. It's a short story in one of his books, one of his collection of short stories. It's based on director George Pavlou, who I don't really know anything else he's done.
George Pavlou. Yeah. He's known for Rawhead Rex, Underworld, Strange X, and Little Devils The Birth.
Not the Underworld with Kate Beckinsale.
This is 1985 Underworld. What other notes do I have here? Oh, yeah, because we cannot, you'd mentioned something about extra pages, and I'm starting to wonder if that's what we're going to get into here. So, book plays out just like the movie. The ending, we get the rooftop scene where Splinter busts out Cowabunga and everybody, the turtles go nuts. I'm sure everybody in the theater went nuts. It's chicken jockey all over again. It's just bedlam in the theaters, which is anyway. So I'm sure that's exactly what happened when Splinter yelled Cowabunga or said Cowabunga. Yeah. Everybody jumped up and did like front flips and it was just crazy. Anyway, so the whole movie, we get towards the end and it's great. And then at the end of this book, today, as I'm watching the movie, I'm like, I gotta ask Chris if there was going to be an after credit scene, which by the way, I watched all the way through the credits because I was like, maybe there is. I'll just double check. If there was going to be an after credit scene, I was going to ask you what it should have been. My guess is, you've got to pump up for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. Shredder's not dead.
Yeah.
We got to get that across, maybe like the hand coming out of the trash heap in part 2 or whatever it is. We should have got that at the end of part 1, but we didn't. It just kind of ended. Cowabunga, off we go to go play with our action figures. In the book, though, this would have been a great, and then we kind of get an after credit scene here in the book where April and I assume Casey. I don't know who that other guy is. Oh, it's Danny. Okay,
I assume. I don't know. They don't name him.
Yeah, they go to Mega Comics. April brings her drawings of the turtles to a guy and says, this would make for a great comic. And he's like, well, they're very interesting drawings. But as for the basis for a comic book, I'm afraid the idea is just too far-fetched. And then one of the turtles, it doesn't show you who because it's black and white, looks at the reader and goes far-fetched. And a good way to end it, in my opinion. With the city skyline being the final panel, Statue of Liberty in the distance.
I believe that was filmed. This was brought up on that What a Cartoon podcast, the deep dive. I believe it was filmed and cut. The only Blu-ray that has the deleted scenes is an Australian Blu-ray, maybe. I think you can find the deleted scenes on YouTube, but I've never looked them up. I believe that is one of them.
Wow. Okay. I think it was a great way to end the book, in my opinion, for sure. It's it's meta. It's a great comic book way of doing things. Overall, you just heard me run down this whole book, the whole movie. If you haven't watched the movie, I'm sorry I spoiled it for you. We got a book that's very faithful to the movie with a little bit extra added to it every once in a while. A couple things we kind of nitpicked that wasn't really in the book. You wondered, okay, how much can they fit into the book? I don't think we ran into much of a problem with that here. I feel like every single good beat was hit.
It took a while to get through.
Yeah, it was a good adaptation. All right, man, I spoke a lot and I went through everything. Did you have anything you wanted to add? Any things that you wanted to say here about the book versus the movie?
Yeah, most of the stuff in my notes I already mentioned. I did like getting a bit more of the Casey versus Raph fight, an extended version of that. The moment where Shredder is watching the TV report and getting angry, he's got all these TVs set up in the movie. He's just watching April on every screen, pretty much. But he's watching, fishing. He's got a hockey game on. I'm trying to find the panel here.
There's a soccer game going on right there. Betty Boop on the right hand side. There is a Friday the 13th up there.
Yeah. One of the images looks like it could be Krang in the
holy crap,
upper
right here.
left. In the upper left, the top next to the Star Trek,
the Enterprise.
Yeah. So it's not a perfect Krang, but that's what my thought was when I saw it.
Nice. This is a great panel, dude. Wow.
Another deleted scene that I'd heard about was where Shredder beats up some of the Foot Clan kids because they had gotten arrested and they had to pay to bail them out, and that costs the Foot Clan money. So he beats their asses for a minute. Where he gives his big speech. I did think it was interesting. One of the best parts about the movie And it was probably the first time I'd seen an example of this, which is a trope that I really love in action and martial arts type movies, where the bad guy seems so invincible. Turtles all go at him over and over, and he barely, I think at one point Leo slices his arm a little bit, but it's totally one-sided. But yeah, this one, initially, we don't even see Shredder, what Shredder's doing to him. We just see basically they run at him and then they're all getting knocked back and each in their own panel. We do see a little bit more of their one-on-one stuff in the following pages, but yeah.
Right. All right. Anything else?
It's a good adaptation. It's cool that they used the Mirage guys to give it that feel of the older comics. I think at the time, this art wouldn't have appealed to me. I would have preferred it to look more like the Archie comics. Oh, yeah. But now I think this is neat that they used Lawson and got that indie comic feel to the adaptation.
So spoil it for me here. When we get to part 2, are we going to get Eastman and Laird again?
I don't remember because I haven't looked at it in so long, but I do know the cover looks like it was done by Lawson. So it might be the same deal.
Well, yeah, like I said, the first thing that drew me to this, I was like, okay, we're just going to get a hokey adaptation. And no, it was the original creators coming out here in 1990 and putting something together to adapt the film. And I was like, okay, I appreciate that for sure. I did have a few notes on the film itself that I've definitely wanted to bring up. So went to Columbus GalaxyCon in Columbus, Ohio in December. And at that GalaxyCon was Judith Hoag.
Nice.
Judith Hoag, it was nice to see her there for sure. Jordan, one of the guys over at Kapow, the man that was kind enough to give me tickets to go to GalaxyCon with him, had planned to get her autograph. And so he stood in line, waited for her. He had a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles trading card of April O'Neil that he wanted to have her sign. During that time, he tells her, listen, there's a bit of a movement for you to play April O'Neil in the Ronin film, The Last Ronin. She kind of laughed at first and he didn't give anything away, but then at the end she looks at him and says, I'd really like for you to come back and play April. And she's like, I'll fucking kill it. So I hope that would be awesome to see her come back and play April O'Neil in The Last Ronin. I could have mentioned this earlier, but I'll go ahead and just say this. I don't know if you had the same experience that I had. When you hear Raphael curse in the movie, oh my gosh. At that point, all bets were off. I just remember sitting here thinking, the only other thing that I could kind of liken that to is I actually went and saw Transformers, the movie, in theaters. And there is some cursing that happens in that. And I was just, I just remember blew my mind as a kid.
Damn it.
Oh my gosh. So the other thing you miss with the comic book, you kind of have to add, if you're reading a comic book, the comic book is not coming with the soundtrack. Luckily, there is Spotify, but the TMNT original soundtrack is not on there. So you don't have MC Hammer. You don't have, oh my goodness, Kid Yop. I cannot remember her name. Anyway, Spin the Wheel. That was one of the songs that came on. I was like, oh my gosh. You do not have Partners in Crime, which I don't think is actually, I mean, you have to go to YouTube. You can do this by YouTube. I guarantee you somebody went out there and put together a YouTube playlist of all these songs. So I know Partners in Crime, Turtle Power is out there. As far as the movie goes, there's a soundtrack that I would love to hear in completion. Spotify doesn't carry it. I kind of wish I would have had that on while I was reading this.
Yeah.
I would have took you right back. But anyway, I think that is all I have. And Raphael is not the leader of the group Partners in Crime, just telling you right now. Come on, guys.
He is sort of the lead of the movie if there is one, but still.
Raphael,
we all know.
Leo's the leader. We all know that. He even says in the movie, I never said I was going to be leader, but we all know Leonardo's the leader. All right.
Another thing, I don't know that I mentioned this earlier. It is a good adaptation and it's cool and everything. There is something different, even though it is a movie based on a comic. Translating that movie back into a comic, you still lose some stuff. You lose some of the momentum. Like when Casey shows up, it's just not as impactful as the movie. A lot of the scenes seem cobbled together and rushed because it just doesn't flow as well in a comic book as it does in a movie. This is pretty much exactly the same as the movie.
Right.
But it's still very cool.
All right, man, we did it. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie, and the adaptation are now in the bag for Unspoken Issues. We are going to be coming back soon at some point
in the future.
Yeah, that's right. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. Pick a panel. I guess we ought to pick one. There are a couple in here, pretty easy ones to pick from.
There's some big 2-page splashes in here. I'm going to go with, and this is something that gets brought up on is the documentary called Turtle Power?
Pretty sure.
Where, initially they made those action figures with the tails.
Oh, yes.
We got to get rid of those tails. They look like little turtle wings hanging out there.
Right there's one right there.
You can see Lawson draws them, and you don't always notice the tails, but there are a lot of panels where you can clearly see he drew the tail in. I'm going to go with this image of, I can't even tell what turtle it is, but he's spread eagle doing a double kick into a couple of foot soldiers, and you can see that tail poking out between his legs.
Yep.
And I don't have a page count here, so it's during the fight in the sewer with the Foot Clan, right after April helps out with Donnie's bow by knocking that one in the head.
Oh, okay.
That's probably Donnie because he doesn't have his bow. It looks like his turtle wing is hanging out there, or he's trying to make it to the bathroom and losing the battle.
He's losing the battle. Oh, he's actually turtle heading. I somehow ended up with a Turtles figure that's based off of the comic book. And I don't know how I ended up with this thing because I didn't buy it. I must either got it in an auction or something along those lines. But they have the tails on that figure, which is interesting. I think I scrolled up and I had mine here just a few seconds ago. And that was one of the first fights in the antique shop. There is there's a couple right here where April's holding Raphael. They're all fighting the Foot Clan inside this apartment. I dug this because we get to see all 4 turtles here, even though one of them's down and they're all fighting. I probably would have picked a Casey Jones one as well if I had a chance to do 2 of them. But I think the most dynamic pages here are definitely turtle centric, like them leaping from the building and going down to the sewers. All great stuff. But there's my 2-page spread, the battle inside the apartment. Okay. All right. Are you ready to get into plugs, sir?
Show enough.
All right, buddy. Why don't you let everybody know what you got going on over there, either at Because Movies or I had it there for a second. Why would I forget what the other one is called? But anyway, let them all know.
Screeners.
There it is. Small Screeners. Tell them all about it.
I do another couple of podcasts with my buddy AJ where we talk about movies. One is Small Screeners, where we talk about direct-to-video and made-for-TV fare. So we've talked about the Punisher movie from 1990 and a couple of the animated DC movies. There's some comic-centric stuff on that feed. We also do one called Because Movies, where we can talk about whatever we want. You can find those on the Small Screeners and Because Movies on your podcatcher of choice.
All right. And I think I got 3 things to talk about here. Unspoken Issues right here. It's 90s centric. We talk about 90s centric comics. We're having a good time. Plenty of stuff out there in the archive. We have over 100 episodes. Just go to the YouTube, the Source Material Comics Podcast YouTube. You should be able to listen to the majority of it. I even put a playlist together, I think, of all the stuff you didn't originally air on there. So over on the Rattlich and Broadcasting Network, I think I got episodes 0 through I want to say 30 something maybe. You can check that out. Also, the Source Material Comics Podcast in general just does comics in general. Any comics of any era, we get together and talk about them. And then the Snap Material Podcast where me and Evan talk about the Marvel mobile card game, Marvel Snap. If you're interested in that, we usually do about 4 episodes, 20 minutes a piece, and we have a good time doing that. Check that out about once a month. And then the last thing, I'll go ahead and plug it because this is going to be airing Monday. Go check out JS April. The Source Material Comics Podcast participated in that where we did All-Star Squadron numbers 19 and 20. It was me and Chris Bailey got together and talked about it was JSA adjacent, I guess you would say, but there are over 30, maybe close to 50 content creators participating in hashtag JS April. So if you want to learn about the JSA, April's the time to do it because there's plenty of bloggers and podcasters out there talking about it right now. So if you get a chance, go check that out. I think that is it. That over there is Chris Armstrong. I'm Jesse Starcher. Thank you very much for joining us. I'll let you send us out. What perfect Turtles quote would you say, Chris Armstrong?
Bossa Nova!
Perfect. All right, we're out of here. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us. Unspoken Issues is part of the UnspokenDecade.com, the home for 90s comics, blogs, and podcasts. Unspoken Issues also has a Facebook group you can join if you are interested. Just search the Unspoken Issues podcast and request to join. All of this would not be possible without W2Mnet.com, so make sure to seek them out for more podcasts. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please feel free to share, and we look forward to entertaining you again soon.